My sister accused me of sleeping with her fiancé on her wedding day, and my family believed her before I could say a single word. If someone had told me that morning that I would lose my entire family before lunchtime, I would have laughed. Rachel had spent nearly 2 years planning that wedding. Every centerpiece, every flower, every place card. She talked about it constantly. I arrived at the venue before 8 to help the coordinator finish setting up. Rachel was running late, not unusual. She was always late. I spent the morning directing guests, answering questions, and helping elderly relatives find their tables. I was genuinely happy for her. Despite our differences, she was still my younger sister. And Daniel. We were never close. Most family dinners ended with him sitting beside Rachel while I sat across the room talking to someone else. We barely texted, barely spoke, which is why what happened next made absolutely no sense. Around 10:30, I was helping an elderly couple find their seats when I heard someone scream my name. Not call, not shout, scream. The kind of scream that silences an entire ballroom. I turned around. Rachel stood near the center of the room. Her wedding dress spread around her, mascara streaking down her face. Hundreds of eyes instantly turned toward her, then toward me. Rachel pointed directly at me, her hand trembling. "I trusted you." The room went silent. I stared at her. "What?" For a brief second, something felt wrong. Rachel wasn't looking at me like someone who had just discovered a betrayal. She was looking at me like someone who had been waiting for this moment. Then she spoke. "How long has it been going on?" My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" Her voice cracked. "You've been sleeping with Daniel." Gasps erupted across the ballroom. A champagne glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered against the floor. Several guests pulled out their phones. The whispers started immediately. I stood frozen, unable to process what I had just heard. Daniel looked pale, but he wasn't defending me. He wasn't saying anything. Then I noticed something even worse. My mother wasn't shocked. My father wasn't confused. Neither of them looked surprised. They looked disappointed, as if this conversation had already happened before I arrived. I expected my mother to calm Rachel down. Instead, she started walking toward me. And what she said next convinced everyone in that ballroom that I was guilty. My mother stopped 3 feet in front of me. The entire ballroom was watching. I kept waiting for her to calm Rachel down, to ask questions, to demand proof, to tell everyone there had to be some mistake. Instead, she looked me directly in the eyes and said something I'll never forget. "I begged you not to do this." The room exploded with whispers. My heart nearly stopped. "What are you talking about?" I asked. Mom shook her head. Tears filled her eyes, not tears for me, tears for Rachel. "We gave you every chance to tell us the truth." Every chance. I stared at her. I had absolutely no idea what she meant. Then my father stepped forward. His face was hard, cold. The same look he used whenever he had already made a decision. "Don't make this harder than it already is." Suddenly, the mood in the ballroom shifted. People weren't looking at me with confusion anymore. They were looking at me with disgust. One of my cousins actually muttered, "I can't believe she'd do that." An aunt quietly pulled her granddaughter behind her, like I was dangerous. Like I was someone they needed protection from. I felt sick. I turned toward Rachel. "What did you tell them?" Rachel refused to look at me. That was the moment everything clicked. This wasn't a bride having a breakdown. This wasn't some misunderstanding. She had prepared them days ago, maybe weeks ago. She had been feeding them a story long before the wedding. "Rachel," I said, "look at me." She wouldn't. Instead, she started crying harder. Then Daniel finally spoke. "Rachel, this isn't." She grabbed his arm. "Don't." Daniel looked at me, then lowered his eyes and said nothing. And for the first time all day, I noticed something strange. He didn't look guilty. He looked terrified, as if he knew something he wasn't allowed to say, as if he was afraid of what would happen if he opened his mouth. Then my father pointed toward the ballroom entrance. "You need to leave." I laughed, a short, shocked laugh. "Leave? You heard me." "Dad, I didn't do anything." His jaw tightened. "Don't embarrass your sister any further." That hurt more than Rachel's accusation, because it told me everything. He had already chosen. They all had. I looked around the ballroom. Family, friends. people who had known me my entire life. Not one person defended me. Then Rachel lowered her hands and looked directly at me. For the first time all morning, her tears stopped. And then she revealed the evidence she claimed proved I'd been sleeping with Daniel. For the first time that day, I finally understood why everyone believed her. My father dragged me out of the ballroom. I kept waiting for someone to stop him. An aunt, an uncle, a cousin, anyone, nobody did. The doors closed behind us. The music started again inside, as if nothing had happened. As if I had never been there. "Dad, please," my voice cracked. "What proof is Rachel talking about?" He didn't answer. My mother stood beside him, arms crossed, face pale, heartbroken, not because she was losing a daughter, because she thought Rachel was losing a husband. "We tried to help you," she said. That phrase again, tried to help me. I still had no idea what she meant. "Help me with what?" Neither of them answered. My father simply pointed toward the parking lot. "Go home." I stared at him. The man who had taught me how to ride a bicycle, who used to call me his little girl. Now he couldn't even look me in the eyes. Then he turned around and walked back inside, leaving me standing alone. The wedding continued without me. By the time I reached my apartment, my phone was already exploding. Messages, calls, voicemails. Rumors spread faster than I thought possible. Some people called me selfish. Others called me a homewrecker. A few called me things I won't repeat. The strange part, nobody asked if it was true, not one person. They had already made up their minds. 3 days later, Rachel and Daniel got married. I wasn't invited. A week later, my parents boxed up everything I still had stored at their house. Old photos, school awards, birthday cards, memories. They left the boxes on my porch without saying a word. My mother didn't call. My father didn't text. My brother blocked me. My cousins stopped speaking to me. Within a month, it felt like I had died. Only nobody had bothered to tell me. I spent the next few years trying to rebuild my life. New apartment, new friends, new routines. But every holiday reminded me what I'd lost. Every Christmas, every birthday, every family wedding. I was missing from all of them. The worst part wasn't being accused. It was knowing the people who claimed to love me never once asked for my side of the story. 5 years passed. Then one Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. I almost ignored it, because the name on the screen was one I hadn't seen since Rachel's wedding. Daniel. And what he said next changed everything. I stared at it for several seconds before answering. Neither of us spoke at first. Finally, he broke the silence. "Emily," my stomach tightened. "What do you want?" His voice sounded exhausted. Not angry, not defensive, exhausted. "I need to talk to you." I laughed a bitter laugh. 5 years late. "I know. Then why now?" Silence. Then he said something strange. "Rachel can't know I'm calling." Every nerve in my body went alert. "What? Please. Just listen." For the first time, I heard something beneath his words. Fear. The same fear I'd seen in his eyes the day of the wedding. "I found something." I closed my eyes. For 5 years, I'd imagined this conversation. 100 different versions of it. None sounded like this. "What did you find?" Another pause. Then Daniel asked a question that made no sense. "Do you still have the photos from Rachel's bridal shower?" I frowned. "What?" "The lake house weekend." My heart skipped. I hadn't looked at those pictures in years. "What does that have to do with anything?" His answer came immediately. "Because one of them shouldn't exist." I sat upright. "What are you talking about?" "Tomorrow," he said. "I'll show you." "No." My voice came out sharper than I intended. "You're not disappearing again. Tell me now." Another long silence. Then Daniel said something that made my blood run cold. "The photo Rachel showed everyone at the wedding wasn't on the tablet." I stopped breathing. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, I whispered, "What?" "I checked the backup files." My heart pounded. The messages were there. My stomach dropped. But the photo wasn't. The room seemed to tilt around me. For 5 years, I'd assumed the evidence was one thing. Now Daniel was telling me it was something else, something worse, something that didn't belong. Then he said the words I'd waited 5 years to hear. "Emily, I don't think Rachel showed everyone what I originally found." The call ended an hour later. I barely slept that night. because for the first time in 5 years, I had proof that part of Rachel's story wasn't true. And the next morning, Daniel showed me exactly what my family had never bothered to question: the original evidence. The next morning, I drove to Daniel's house. I thought it would just be the two of us. Instead, my parents were already there. My brother stood near the window. Rachel sat on the far side of the living room. Nobody spoke when I walked in. Daniel looked exhausted. "I asked everyone here because this ends today." He opened his laptop. The messages Rachel showed everyone weren't the original conversation. He clicked the first folder. The original messages appeared on the screen. They weren't romantic. They weren't secret. They were conversations about Rachel. Wedding stress, arguments, problems in their relationship, nothing more. Then Daniel opened another folder. The photo Rachel showed everyone at the wedding wasn't here. He opened the original. The room went silent. Rachel stood in the center. I stood beside two cousins. Daniel wasn't even in the picture. Then he opened Rachel's edited version beside it. The difference was impossible to ignore. My father's face turned white. He stared at the screen, then at Rachel, then back at the screen. "What did you do?" Rachel couldn't answer. My mother slowly covered her mouth. My brother looked between both photos, completely lost. Finally, my father spoke again. "Why?" Rachel burst into tears. "I thought he was going to leave me." She pointed toward Daniel. "We'd been arguing for months. He kept talking about postponing the wedding. I thought if everyone believed Emily had betrayed me, he'd stay." The room fell completely silent. Daniel closed his eyes. "I never wanted to leave because of Emily. I was pulling away because our relationship was falling apart." My mother slowly sank into her chair. My brother buried his face in his hands. My father couldn't even look at Rachel anymore. For 5 years, they had treated me like a criminal, and now they finally knew the truth. Rachel looked at me. "I'm sorry." 2 words. 5 years destroyed for 2 words. "Emily, please," my mother whispered. "We didn't know." I looked at her. "You never asked." Nobody answered. Nobody defended Rachel. Nobody asked me to forgive. My father finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I should have listened." I nodded, but I felt nothing. No anger, no relief, no satisfaction. 5 years had already taken those feelings away. I picked up my purse, walked toward the door. Nobody tried to stop me. This time, they knew they had no right. They had chosen what to believe, and I was choosing what came next. A life without lies, a life without Rachel, a life without the people who never once asked for my side of the story. I walked out, and this time, nobody followed. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.